Where? And I want to welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the automated coaching feature. The automated coaching feature actually came out in 8.17.11, but it's been around and nobody's actually put it to use yet. So we wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of what it does. So the coaching feature is an automated process that assists supervisors to deliver coaching material to either dispatchers or agents. It's done automatically as a part of the grading capability. And so I see Beth English has joined us today. Hello, Beth. So I think it's of importance to you. But what happens with this feature is that any training material or coaching material that the customer has supplied can be that is used in the aid performance improvement of a dispatcher or of an agent. Now, I know a lot of our partners are actually providing these quality assurance or quality audit capabilities and providing the gradings and helping with the reports and everything. So this actually provides some additional opportunity for those people that are providing that service to actually also have the training material to give to the customer that they can put up on their system, and then as you're doing the grading, they would be allowed to those reports or the training materials can be delivered directly to those particular agents. And this is actually built into the Quality 911, Capture 911, and Quality Assurance in Calibre. Now, I will point out that this is browser-based user interface only, and which, since a lot of people are doing these third-party services, that actually gives them an advantage to be able to reach into the customer's environment, do the gradings, as well as also automate the providing that training material. So in this particular presentation, we're going to talk about the configuration. We're going to talk about the different levels. We're talk about how to send it, how it's sent. There's a lot of information in here that is that's basically front end, and then it becomes automated after the fact. So the first thing we want to do is talk about how you configure it. So there is a coaching configuration file, and that must be configured correctly, and we will talk a little bit about how that. The coaching materials, which is the named subfolder, must be in the master directory, and this can all be done through Windows. Coaching materials that are provided by the customer or provided by the third-party service must be in that particular folder and have a particular name, have their names. Any sort of the response for the email that goes out can be customized by the customer by using COACHINGMATERIALS.TXT, and that supervisors and agents to be graded will have to have their email addresses in BI Manage. Now, there are capabilities of uploading user lists and address books that we're not going to get into the details today, but those are things that can be done pre-providing this, and that's one of those things that has to be aware. Or has to be completed for this feature to work correctly. So the first thing is the coaching configuration file must be done correctly. Now, when you first get this, when it first comes, this configuration file is actually in the coaching materials folder, and that needs to be moved from there to the master directory. And when you pull it up, there's some default settings. And for example, the coaching materials folder will be named coaching materials, and then the coaching material email subject actually just says coaching materials to be sent from grading. That coaching materials email subject can be edited to meet the organizational requirements. So if you're doing this for, let's just say a PSAP, you might want to point out that subject may say requires attention, training material attached, or something like that. These changes can be done by the customer or as a part of the configuration. Then the coaching materials subfolder. Now, it must be in the HigherGround master directory, and you can name it anything you want it to be, as long as you match it in the coaching .config file that we talked about previously. So that particular directory can be named whatever you want it to name it. And if you're doing this for multiple customers, you may actually want to put a customer name in it. It's just a question of what organizationally the customer wants to do with it. Then the coaching materials is the next piece. The coaching materials folder contains all the files that will be used to be sent based on a result being below a configured grading percentage. Now, obviously, when they put these in, it would be good if the files were named for easy selection. That's just a standard file procedure. And then all the coaching materials that you would use or training materials will be placed in the coaching materials using File Explorer. So it's a very simple process. You can just load it up and put them in. Once those materials are in there, when you go to configure, it will actually give you a drop-down menu of everything you've put in that file, and then you can actually select it from there. And then finally, on the COACHINGMATERIALS.TXT, the standard that's in there is, due to grading scores on one of your calls, the attached coaching materials must be completed promptly. That can be edited to be whatever you want and can be customized to meet organizational requirements. So again, we're doing all this on the front end and is in preparation, so then once it's in place, it becomes automated. So like with most automatic capabilities, it's all about the front end process. Then finally, you need to make sure that email addresses are in the BI Manage. Every user and every supervisor, there should be an email address, and if you look in the user tables, you can find the email address, and that needs to be filled in. So now that you've done all this setup at the front end, now you can start the process of actually figuring out where you want to put these coaching materials and have them sent to the agent or dispatcher, depending on how they scored. So then you start with the coaching levels. There are 3 scoring levels in which you can actually attach coaching or training materials. They can be done at the total grading, they can be done at a particular category, or you can put it down to the question level. Where the coaching materials are put are all up to how the person would want to use those materials or how they want to improve the performance of the dispatcher or agent. That becomes a question, an organizational question, which involves probably HR, possibly unions. There are other things, but all of these things, the flexibility is there to allow the materials to be placed where it needs to be. Now, the way the materials are sent is the scores that are at or below assigned percentage trigger an automated email that goes to the person being graded. Now, all these materials and percentages have to be pre-assigned, so that when you go through, you need to figure out, once you put the materials in, then you have to figure out where you have to provide where you want to put it and how you want it to be presented. So then we go to the total score level. If you're looking, we're using the Calibre QA for this, but this is also the same thing for the Quality 911. But there is, if you're in the utility form detail and you're at the top level and you want to say the total score gets below, say, 60%, then you can actually go in and you go in and you put that in and you click on it and it'll say you want to do professional demeanor during calls. And that is the material that will be sent. That's done at the total score level. If you don't want to do it at the total score level, if you want to get a little more granularity to it, you can do it at the category level. So then if they, again, going through the form utility, if you go to the category level and you edit, you can actually add to the add that coaching material if the grading for that category falls below a certain percentage. So in this case, they say send coaching material score percents at 65%, and then how closing a call properly is the document that gets sent. Want to point out that whatever you put in there can be sent. So you could do, you could have PDF files, you could have Word doc files, you could have any sort of interactive files that require some sort of training. The file type that you put in there is completely flexible. So we've just elected to do PDFs because that seems to be what most people were doing today. So from there, if you want to even get to a greater level of granularity, you can go down to the actual question score. So then when you go through and you're actually creating the questions and the grading questions and the answers, you actually can scroll down a little bit and you can actually add in, you want to send coaching material if, say, they got below 70%. And this is the way that you can provide greater and greater detail, which will then hopefully help improve the performance of the agent or the dispatcher. So the overall, the automated coaching is supposed to be for performance improvement, and the key to this is that even after you put the information in, you can also go back and add new materials over time and go back and edit each of these questions if you wanted to change the material at a future date. So when a question is, or a category or even the total score is below the certain percentage, you actually sending the materials to them. Now, it can be automatic, but you can also have it set up so that there's a pop-up for sending material when the user preference box says show pop-up when sending coaching material. So it doesn't have to automatically be sent. You can actually have it pop up so that you're aware that it's going on. The other case is if either the person grading or being graded doesn't have an email address in their user record, it will pop up and give you we need to add an email address. So I know that there are some people that want to know when they're actually sending the materials, so that when they do that, they'll want to make sure that they click the show pop-up when sending coaching materials in the user preferences. That's important to note that if you do that, then when you do hit a coaching thing, a grading is below a certain percentage and you're going to send that coaching material, you will get a pop-up similar to this. Now, it will pop up, and well, actually in this case, it'll pop up this way saying you're ready to go, and all you have to do is hit OK. So it'll actually show you what the message is and who it's to, so you can be assured that you've done the right thing. Now, if there is not an email address involved, then you're going to get this one where it says either from or to email is empty, so the coaching materials won't be sent. Are you sure you want to continue? You actually can go in and you can actually put the answers in by hitting cancel. You type it in, and then you'll be able to hit send from there. So it gives you the opportunities to be able to make sure that you're sending it to the right place, and if you don't have the email address, then you actually will get a prompt so that you can make sure that you've done it correctly. So when you get to the end and you've sent coaching material, and you particularly want to maybe resend it, there is a capability where you can save and resend the coaching material again if you think they haven't quite gotten it right. So pretty much it's a automated capability. It's customer driven in terms of the materials that are used. It is pre-provisioned so that it can be automated. We have the automated capabilities at 3 levels of granularity. It can be at the total level, it can be at the category level, or it can be at the question level. And there are built-in capabilities to ensure that you've done sent it to the right person, or if the person does not actually have an email address, you actually can. And if you need to resend it, you have the ability to resend it. So at this point, we'll open it up to any questions.
Hey, Tom, it's Russell. I was wondering what the cost is.
Currently, this is built in. It's built into the
QA.
It's built into the QA or the quality 911 or quality assurance. It's built in.
So it comes with it.
Yes.
Part of the package, which is great.
Yep.
Now the thing is, it has to be on the browser version of the software, which
that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Let's see if there are any. No one's putting anything up on the conversations. If there are no other questions, I promised it would be a quick one. So we're planning to do some more of these in the future. We're going to do one on GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, and how HigherGround complies to that. We're also looking at some additional features that may be hidden in the product that people aren't fully aware of that would make their life easier for either setting up and configuring. I'm actually working with development to try to get to some of those features and pull them all together into a did you know type of webinar. We're also looking at doing a webinar on virtualization and how we're dealing with virtualization today, as well as how we'll be moving forward in doing hosted applications in the future. So we'll be putting those out in due time. So when they come out, if you wish to join in, please feel free to do that. We'll also be recording when we do these. So with that, if there are no other questions, thank you everyone for joining today, and hopefully this gives you some information that allows you to go out and sell some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Sounds good.